Hi all, thank you for joining our Triangle Talks today. Today we'll be talking about employment tips in 2021. Joining us is employment specialist Mike Comavis from the Orange County Department on Aging, and he will be talking to us a bit about reentering the workforce, a late career switch or transition, and those employment tips for 2021, job searching in the midst of a pandemic. I'm going to introduce our host, Scott Buell. Scott, you can take
Hey, Pax. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you great.
Fantastic. Okay. Welcome, everyone. And I hope that you find this interview today with the employment specialist from Orange County Department of Aging, Mike Comavis. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great having you on, and I can say that every one of us has been through situations where we needed your services to either seek a new job or to get one after our life struggles have had a change of direction or whatever. So first of all, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and your role in the Orange County Department of Aging?
Well, thank you, Scott. For the past 18 years, I have been helping professionally people searching for jobs, whether they be full-time or part-time, helping military veterans re-enter the workforce. I've been also doing programs at Orange Alamance prisons for people with felony convictions on what they need to do to re-enter the workforce. And beginning in January of 2009, I started the ministry at church called the Jobs Network of St. Thomas More. We still meet twice a month, Saturday mornings. We do it virtually. We've been averaging 20 to 35 people meeting with us twice a month on Saturday mornings virtually, all at no cost. About 4 years ago, I was interviewed and asked and offered a job with the Orange County Department on Aging, and I accepted the role as the employment specialist, helping residents of Orange County who are 55 years of age or older search for jobs, full-time, part-time, explore careers, as well as maybe start their own businesses, and also seeking out volunteer opportunities. I have a large group of people who I know through my LinkedIn profile. I'm connected to over 3,300 people, many of them in North Carolina. My background is Procter & Gamble after leaving the military and working for Nabisco, McCormick and Company, and for some beer companies, and a lot of work in creating new products, new businesses. About 30 years ago, I moved to the Triangle, and like I say, 4 years ago, Orange County Department on Aging offered me this job. It taps right into my passion. It's a love affair. I happen to be very blessed. I love what I'm doing. I recommend that people find the kind of work or activity that they love, and somewhere there's a right kind of a role for them. Scott?
Wow. So many things in there that generated questions and things. First of all, thank you for your service as in the military. We appreciate that. And even post-service, we appreciate your assisting with the veterans on finding all of their employment or serving all their employment quests and needs. On that, let's start off by someone that is currently working but is considering a career switch. You know, I've been doing this job for 5, 8, 10, 20 years. I want to do something different. What advice do you have for that switch? Do they quit their job and then look for a new one, or they keep their job and while they search?
Well, the answer to that last part of the question, I would say, is very, very cautious. Given the pandemic right now, I would say that you want to try to keep your job while you look, depending on your financial circumstances. The other thing is that most employers are more interested in people that are currently working for some reason than they are people who are unemployed. Now, beginning in March of last year, that changed because of the pandemic and the numbers of layoffs. So a lot of that stigma has gone away. When people consider looking for a new job, don't forget that you have many, many transferable skills from what you have done previously. So we recommend that people do what I call a quick self-knowledge checkup. And I have a short quiz I'll be happy to make available to anybody on looking at your strengths, your values, your motivations, and some highlight moments. You also want to be able to refer to your work experience, not as experience, but as accomplishments, achievements, or successes. Employers today want to know relevant successes that you have had. Relevant comes from a type of an activity that perhaps you've done before. So given that, we have a lot of ways to take advantage of that. You need to present yourself in a compelling way in your resume, everything that you write and everything that you say. And we also know that, people that have been in the workforce for some time, they may have a little bit of white or gray hair. We know that there are ways to avoid the age discrimination. So again, you want to take everything into, context and put that into what you're looking at. You also want to put, different links and different successes on your LinkedIn profile. Anybody with a college degree these days is already being interviewed. They're being interviewed on LinkedIn, whether you know it or not. LinkedIn has about 800 million subscribers worldwide. Now, about less than a third of them are in the United States, but that still leaves about 240 million subscribers to LinkedIn. It's a powerful, accessible resource, very good for your job search. Scott?
What kind of time frame should someone, as you said, if you're currently in a job and obviously if you have the financial wherewithal to end that job while you seek one, that's a different aspect. But if you are looking for a job, what kind of time frame should you give yourself? I mean, my experience is these things don't happen overnight. It can take months, years even. So
it used to be approximately somewhere between 3 and 6 months, approximately, again, depending on how much documentation, how much written materials you have that are current and up to date. Now, it could take longer, but in other ways, it could take shorter. Because of the pandemic, there is a big, big need for all kinds of help related to healthcare services, doctors, medical clinics, all the other healthcare facilities. There's also needs for other kinds of administrative help. Governmental agencies, county agencies are looking for experienced people to help them get through this pandemic. We also see that delivery people, not just the people driving the Amazon and the FedEx trucks, but the people behind the scenes doing the planning, the routing, the distribution, and the strategy and the logistics work. There's also a lot of need for them, plus administrative support.
One of my in-career positions involved logistics, and it gave me a new appreciation for the Amazons, the distribution centers of the world, because especially when it involves international transport of goods, there's a lot of things in place. And I think if you're staying at home today and operating a business or even just operating your household, you've picked up on some of those skills of how things have to be timed and ordered, and risk and do the risk management.
Yes.
That's another big aspect of it. So,
Yes, very much so. Good.
You mentioned that you assist veterans. What resources are there for either someone coming directly out of the military or a veteran that may have had an interim job and again wants to switch? What resources are there for veterans to switch careers? Obviously, a military person coming out is most likely switching careers at that point.
Well, some of the military folks and areas have set up, I'm going to say, counseling areas. Plus, in North Carolina, we are rich with people helping veterans get, placed in the, I call it the regular marketplace. So there are lots of different people. Scott Banks and others. Durham has some. There's some here in Orange County, just helping veterans directly. So tune in to connecting with your fellow veterans as well as with county agencies that can help. There's NC Career Works. They usually have a couple of veterans on each of their facilities helping people. One thing the veteran has to do is to be able to translate and transfer their experience into what we call business English from what is usually called military speak. So, taking their resumes and their accomplishments, once they get it, they're pretty quick at understanding it. If they've been a patrol leader or squad leader, obviously they got leadership abilities. Oh, gosh, let's talk about those.
Yeah.
And then talk about the other things and put them in phrases that transferable. A lot of logistics people have military backgrounds because they all kinds of logistics day in, day out in terms of delivery of people as well as resources and getting, things from A to B.
What special challenges are there for people that have been either underemployed or have taken a hiatus for whatever personal reasons and want to re-enter the workforce? They may have a lag in their employment record. They may have some other issues there. What special care do they need to consider?
Well, a couple of things come to mind when you're re-entering the workforce. Don't forget that you already have in your past a lot of valuable talents and skills that can be looked at as how are these transferable to today? How do you organize things? We also know that there's a lot of training available. There's all kinds of computer and technological training available, a lot of it for free through county agencies, through libraries, through community colleges, and local other places that are doing those kinds of training. It's important to know your successes in the past and to be able to describe them. We have an easy 3-part story that we ask people to put together. What was the situation or what was the opportunity that you saw? Try to describe that in 20 words or less. Then describe what you did, your involvement, either singly, solely, or as a member of a team or a larger group. What did you and your team do when you either saw that opportunity or you were told to fix that problem? And then the third part is simply what happened, the results, the outcome. And you want, wherever possible, to put some numbers in there. You may have something that either generated more revenue or perhaps saved dollars. That's very important. You may have done something that saved time in terms of doing that task. And anytime you save time, that drops some dollars to the bottom line in profits. Less people and less time. You may have led or put out learning for people in terms of training That's very important. For people in education and or training, the numbers of people that you help to learn, or by subject matter, like if you're working on something in healthcare, you figured out something for a whole bunch of scientists to do something in quicker time and gain learning about perhaps something in cancer or heart disease or whatever. So what was your role? Those three parts are very, very important. Everybody has them. So there are opportunities.
I will add upon that. A previous employment life was at Burroughs Wellcome, and they taught in practice the targeted selection method, which is what you just described. And I found it to be the most powerful interviewing process to get at, what did they really do? Plus, it allowed me to evaluate when I went out to seek a different position to focus. It really tells you what to focus on. And it's the best system that I've seen yet for identifying the right candidates.
Well, I agree, Scott, and I'm glad you brought that up. We have people use these success stories in preparing for their interviews.
Yes.
Often the question will be, tell me about a time when.
And it's in addition to describing your successes, you're always going to get somebody to ask about your failures, and it's important to be able to understand how you react to to something that didn't go the way it went. So I would encourage everybody to prepare once they're able to get an interview, to prepare both pro and con types of questions there.
Well, knowing that is important, and Scott will make a availability of what I call the 64 toughest interview questions, and it's a little booklet that it's online. I have a copy of it. I'll make sure that you and Pox have it, and anybody else that wants it, they can email you or Pox or me, and we'll list that. That's in there. When you talk about your failures, don't forget there's great learning. And the importance of that is in new products, only about 2 or 3% of the products that are kind of created or thought about become successful. Wow. And unfortunately, in job search, some of the same numbers apply. So of the candidates out there, employers know that for every 100 resumes that are sent in, maybe 3 to 5 of them are sufficiently qualified for this role. So those percentage numbers suggest, on the one hand, it's a matter of numbers, but those can be improved largely through networking. And when you find out how to do your networking correctly, you can have somebody in a place of interest hand carry your resume and your cover letter and put it right into the hands of the hiring manager, avoiding going all through the long application process or through somebody in human resources. So again, networking is something else that many, many people do all the time anyhow. If you volunteer, you're networking. You're working with some people you perhaps don't know. And we have ways to make your networking as easy as possible by allowing people to think about everybody they know that they went to school with, maybe they served in the military with, maybe they were in a sorority or fraternity, or people you go to church with, or neighbors, or people you go dancing with, or whomever.
Back when we used to go dancing.
Yeah. Now it's virtual. Yeah. Not as much fun.
You mentioned earlier a population that faces severe challenges of re-entering the workforce, and those are people that have fulfilled their obligation for a prison sentence and are now out either on parole or full freedom there. It is difficult for them to get that job. What suggestions or resources are available for that neglected population?
Well, there's a couple of good resources. Most of the prisons here put on workshops. In fact, I've been doing workshops at the Orange Alamance Center for the past 6 years. Part of the trick there is when you have a felony conviction, you have to own it, and you have to say as little as possible. People with felony convictions tend to want to try to explain away, yeah, I made a mistake, but it was because, or whatever. So you want to own it. You want to say simply, I made a bad judgment. I made a bad mistake. I've served my time. I'm ready to be a taxpayer again. And you can put a little smile with that when you say, I'm ready to be a taxpayer again. I'm ready to be a contributor to society. I also have lists of places in North Carolina that hire people with felony convictions. Many large employers hire people with felony convictions. They don't make a lot of it public because they fear the public is a little bit scared if they know, for instance, when you go to McDonald's or Burger King or places like that, there may be people in the back room with felony convictions. You may never meet them. They maybe have worked their way up to be, a cashier, or you want fries with that at that point. But the whole point there is there's a lot of opportunities. We know a lot of people have started businesses with, I'm going to say, the backing of other people that have either gone to prison or are helping people in that regard. There's a lot of resources available. North Carolina does a really good job on terms of helping people with felony convictions. It's also the date when the judge said you are convicted of this felony and your sentence is. That becomes the date when you say, have you had a felony conviction in the last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or whatever? So that usually picks up 6 to 9 months of time. That helps you get to the point where if you can truthfully say in the last 5 years, I have not had a felony conviction. If that question is asked, you can say no. So you want to know those. You look at the questions on the application. Many employers, including now Duke and Duke University and other large employers in this state, are not asking whether you had a felony conviction anymore. It's going to come up in your background anyhow. So it's hard. It's hard to have confidence when you're out there, particularly early on, but it can be done. We've seen it done.
And there are support services for that. So
Yes.
that's important. Now, approximately a year ago, the whole employment world and everything in the world that we know of got turned upside down. Working, job seeking, existing in the pandemic is presented its challenges. What was our employment world like prior to the pandemic, and then how has that changed us through all of the people that have been forced out of jobs?
Well, from a numbers standpoint, Scott, in this area, approximately 4.9 to 5.5% was the given unemployment rate for this particular area, Wake, Orange, Chatham, Durham counties, this area here. Okay. As of, I'm going to say 3 weeks ago, that number is approximately 8.1%. It may go up a little bit or down a little bit, depending on the business segment, but it's not quite doubled, but it's obviously hurting a lot. Interestingly enough, the best forecasts are that it's going to be probably the fourth quarter of this year, 2021, before people will be, I'm going to say, in government agency and trying to manage the pandemic, as saying approximately that time, we should be knowledgeable and much better handle on managing the pandemic and the vaccinations. And that also means by the fourth quarter of this year, many employers will have a little bit more certainty in terms of what they're looking at for their hiring needs. And they hire when they have certainty. That's one of the problems with the pandemic. Everything got thrown out the window. All uncertainty is gone. That's why in some areas, even in this area, the unemployment rate for people of color, people with felony convictions, is double or even triple what it is for an average white person who has some college in their background. So those are the givens. In terms of the other things, many people now work from home or work remotely. Employers didn't know what they were getting into, but they were sort of forced into it. For the most part, most employers in most businesses who can have people working from home are delighted that it seems to be working very well. People seem to be as productive, and in some cases, even more productive. There's some articles now about people, thinking at 7:30 at night, they think of something they wish they had remembered at 2 p.m. that afternoon when they were online. So they go into their workspace, make a note, or maybe send an email and get it done. So in some cases, there's, the employer is getting a tad more than the traditional 7.5 or 8 hour workday. People seem to be genuinely interested in doing good work from home. It's not easy. You need a workspace, and quite often we see wife has one workspace, husband has another. If they have sons or daughters home from school, wow, the spaces get divided up quickly. There's noise in every room, so you try to keep it down and keep it, quiet as possible. But it is being done. So, that's happening. It also means from the employee point of view, you can now work for anybody in the world. I mean, we have people that are lining up jobs that are based in Tokyo or even China or India, and they're hiring over here because people can do the work from home, and it makes it a little easier to manage going both ways.
And during this past year, people have built a wealth of skills at remote learning, remote teaching, remote problem solving, as you
Yes.
utilize Zoom or whatever platform you're on to solve those problems. And
Yes.
people will need to be able to translate that into viable actions there. Now, what do you think has irrevocably changed because of COVID? We've learned that we can do things remote. We've learned that we don't have to have a body in that chair in that office down the road commuting with everybody else. Will there be a gradual shift back to that?
It's a gradual shift, but I don't think it'll ever go back to being that in total. We're seeing, I think, a major question and a major shift in the entire education segment. Teaching online, teaching distance learning now, it can be done. Students don't like it because you don't have the sociability or the connection there at hand, but teachers like some parts of it. They can do some parts of it. So there's going to be a mix. And we're seeing that already also at work. In the business community, one thing that's missing is the social contact. Today, right now, we're having people watch this. They're kind of attending. They would like it to be more in person. And, that's a part that's missing. Whether it's going to come back fully, I don't know. Many businesses kind of sense that there will be coming into an office maybe 1 or 2 days a week, maybe, a couple of times a month, depending on the kind of job you have. But there will be some sociability context to what you do. And that's driving a lot of the decisions in terms of what we're doing. The food service business, the coffee bar business demands, sociability. Let's go have a cup of coffee. Well, I'm waiting for the day when I can now go back to Caribou and do that, but so, it's a challenge.
What types of skill sets would you suggest that people highlight that have had experience of effective remote interaction? What should their resumes be highlighting?
I think one of the things you want to bring up is obviously you want to have success stories. And in terms of success stories, the ability to be organized, to be timely, to follow up with your contacts. So do you have some kind of a system other than Post-it notes on a refrigerator, and are you using it well? Are you keeping track of, and do you remember when this report is due or that person needs to be contacted? If you do, those are things that need to be highlighted to say, my skills are remarkable or even exceptional, rather than to say it yourself. If you can have somebody say, I know Scott Buell is highly organized, so Scott would be able to say, I am recognized for being highly organized, good attention to detail, good follow-up, good relationship management skills, keeping in touch with my contacts, etc. Those are all important things to highlight, just in addition to the work that you're doing.
The other aspect that people have to somewhat shift their minds on is in the past, if you lived in an area and had no intention of moving, your scope of job searches geographically was limited.
Right.
That has been removed to a large extent. So people need to think outside of the zip code, so to speak.
Yes. And people are really now focusing more on their colleagues and who they're going to be working with a lot, and can kind of put up with what I call the evil boss or the bad boss syndrome, which happens to be the number one reason that people leave jobs, at least in the past. That may or may not be true as we go forward. It'll be interesting to watch that because of the work now being done virtually, there's less intrusion generally from somebody just wandering into your office and, where's that report, Mike? So.
Finally, as we kind of wrap this up, this is an area we really haven't talked about in our emails together or anything, but what resources or suggestions or advice do you have for people that are retired or out of the workforce? They are looking for engagement more so than a job or, necessarily. They want to be able to use their expertise. They want to be able to mentor. So, in my mind, I'm thinking of it. There are some companies that I would work for as an unpaid intern. Now, I know that creates all kind of legal issues. That's not really a feasibility there. But are there resources to connect or to help people utilize their expertise to a startup company that is not, you're not necessarily looking for a BP of logistics there, but something to come in and either consult or provide guidance?
So I would say two things in response, Scott. That's a very, very good question. One of the things you want to look at is your networking contacts. And it's very important that everybody take a look at their list of contacts. And we can do a future segment on networking and how to do it, and also using what we call as a networking brief. which is a one-pager that can go out to people describing exactly what you're saying. So the whole thought there is figure out first, what I'm going to call is define ideal kinds of work as well as acceptable kinds of work. And what Scott is referring to here is perhaps new work or work in a different area, perhaps taking advantage of your information technology skills, but utilizing it specifically, let's say, for children who are economically disadvantaged just because of the challenges that they have. So where do you find those kinds of roles? Well, first is figure out what the kind of work that you want to do, use your networking contacts, and then there are all kinds of resources for looking up then places of interest who may have or employers who have those kinds of roles. The Triangle Business Journal would be one.
Mm-hmm.
If you're interested in life sciences, the North Carolina Biotechnology Center is a wonderful resource in place. Also, your networking areas and events. I have a list of job networking events that take place. Again, I'll share that with you and with anybody who wants it. I also have a list of a lot of networking companies in the Raleigh Triangle Park area, Research Triangle Park area. And again, that's a long list. So figure out what you want to do. Figure out who are the employers then that would be likely to do that. You'll be surprised. IBM is heavy in healthcare and life sciences with a lot of their applications. Well, that takes you out of thinking about IBM as just building these large mainframes and computers. Similarly, Blue Cross Blue Shield is very interested in community health. They have activities going on in each of the 100 counties of North Carolina. Wow. And these are good. You have, each county has government agencies in them. Orange County, Wake County, etc. They will have volunteer opportunities. You have the nonprofits and a lot of other resources. So there's a lot of good stuff out there. Use your networking, find them.
Well, Mike Komovitz, I would like to thank you for sharing your expertise and knowledge with us. And I would like to ask our audience, if you have questions, please send those to Pax at her email that was published earlier, or reach out to Mike with the email that was provided. And also, this is my plug for AARP. If you are interested in volunteering for AARP, either here in the Triangle or wherever you may be watching this, reach out to your state office and find one of the state associate directors, and they will help hook you up with whatever your passion may be. AARP is involved in a number of areas, and we can find a way to put your passion to work. Mike, again, thank you very much and have a great day.
Scott, delighted. Thank you.